right, well, in recognition of our 40th anniversary, we thought it might be kind of fun and interesting to talk a little bit about ESC's history and the mark we made on Chicagoland nonprofits, and also talk a little bit about our future as well. So we brought together what I think is a very distinguished panel today. You are a distinguished panel member. Jim. So let me introduce them first. Second down for me is Kenneth Hobby. So Kenneth is president of long-term ESC client Cure SMA. So Kenneth leads the organization's work to develop treatments for spinal muscular atrophy, the #1 genetic cause of death for infants, by merging impassioned grassroots mission with a sophisticated industry incentivizing drug development model. Kenneth brings an industry and marketing background to this family and patient-focused organization. Prior to joining Cure SMA, Kenneth worked at Pharmacia and Decode Genetics. He has an MBA from Kellogg, so thank you for joining us today. We also have seated next to Kenneth, Carl Wolf, who's also a longtime ESC client, and he is the executive director of Respond Now, based out of Chicago Heights since 2006. In his time there, he has expanded the agency to include the SNAP outreach, or permanent supportive housing program, rapid rehousing, and housing counseling services, as well as maintaining its homelessness prevention and food pantry work. Lives in Hammond, Indiana, with his wife and his 2 children. So thank you, Carl, for joining us today. We also have with us Bob Greenbaum down at the end. Bob is a member of our board and our treasurer, and his father, if many of you don't know that, was one of the founding members of ESC back in 1978. We also have Tom Lamb, ESC's board chair, and we have Rachelle. So thanks everybody for joining us. All right.
Jim Brandt.
And Jim Brandt, I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. That's horrible. Jim, life director, and also something special about Jim is this is our 40th anniversary. Jim has been with us for 24 of those 40 years, which is pretty spectacular, Jim. All right, so I have some questions for the panel here, but this obviously it's your meeting, so we want to open up the questions from the floor as well, too. But I'm going to start with you to kind of get things rolling here, if that's okay with everybody. And I'm going to start with Bob. So Bob, since your dad was one of the founding members, can you share a little bit about the history of ESC and kind of what got it started, what prompted the interest? Share the microphone down to Rachelle.
Thanks very much. I might not be able to shed as much light as you might think. If I go back 40 years, I was 23 years old. I was living in Colorado at the time. My father actually retired in 1981, so but he did work for Joe Block, who was the original impetus behind the founding of ESC. What I do remember is hearing from that early age on how impactful my father thought the organization was going to be. You know, I'm not sure that they had anything more than a vision early on as to what it could become. You know, the fact that you're all here in this room today is a pretty good testament to what it has become. John Rosenheim, who happens to be a very important family member of mine, he is my mother's brother, has a lot of history with the organization, as most of you may know. And my father, I think, was John's recruiter into ESC. One thing I will tell you that Dad left with me early on was the fact that and I remember this very well, that he described the organization as a bang for your buck scenario, which I think those of you that knew him probably would say, yes, that's something that he would say, but what that really means is that, you know, a nonprofit that helps other nonprofits gives you the opportunity to serve so many more people than you might just do in another way. So that's always stuck with me. And finally, I will say that in 2009, when my father passed, ESC came to me and said, would you like to continue his legacy and join the board? So I was very, very honored to be asked to do so, and it's been a phenomenal experience for me as well. So thanks very much.
Thanks.
John recruited me.
Rosenheim. Thanks. So I have questions for our guests. I'll start with Kenneth. So maybe you can tell us, how did you first get connected to ESC?
So originally it was from a board member who'd actually worked with you at a separate organization that he was, and so we had some projects that we were looking for consultants to help us out with, and he just raised you as an opportunity for us to look at. So that was kind of the first interaction that came through.
Okay. What with you, Carl?
I think I'm trying to remember exactly how I got connected, but I had started at Respond Now in 2006, and I didn't know what I was doing. And as an executive director, I was I was 34 years old. I was shocked that they had hired me, and so 2 years in, obviously, and I think this is something that everybody needs throughout their careers. I needed some executive coaching, and just somebody, an objective third party to help me understand what was going on, within any group of relationships, and within a nonprofit, you have a lot of competing interests, or not always competing, but a lot of interests, staff, programming, clientele, boards, and it's useful to have a third party, objective party to help you clear out the noise and to see things more clearly. So that was my first engagement, was with executive coaching. That was Evan Freund. It was part psychology, part figuring things out.
So I would imagine when you're looking at doing consulting projects, you probably had a lot of other competing services too. What is it about ESC that stood out that made you choose them over other competitors in the space?
So we definitely actually worked with other consulting groups, for-profit consulting groups, on some of the same topics. We were initially looking for some support in the fundraising area for our board. We probably worked with maybe 2 or 3. None of those really satisfactorily successful for us. So I think we were still kind of looking for a group that could really come in and really help us with our board, move our fundraising to the next level. I think the board referral is one of the key items, really to kind of get you in the door and get you talking to us. The thing that was kind of interesting, I think, was we were used to these for-profit consultants coming in, and we had proposals, $50,000, $100,000 to do these same projects. And then you come in with something which is just insanely cheap. And it's bang for the buck. I think it's pretty interesting to think about. I don't know if you'd have got in the door without the board referral. Because I think the perception, if you get a proposal that's $2,000, $3,000, and we're used to $50,000, $100,000, it kind of makes you wonder, what is this in the right area? Is this going to be of value to us? But I think that board referral got you in the door. And I think it's something that really kind of stands out to me now, that kind of the difference between the value that we're getting, the price that we're paying. It's so different from kind of the other relationships that we have with professional consulting agreements, where usually we kind of have like a bad taste in our mouth. Did we really get what we paid for? Here it's the opposite. We're getting so much more than we've ever paid for, and I think that's why the relationships, the projects that we've worked on with you have just expanded in scope. We've probably done 7 or 8 formal projects, and I think what's maybe even a little more interesting than that is we have an ongoing dialogue with several of you now, just ad hoc. If there's an issue that comes up, we pick up the phone and have a conversation, and I think it's got to the stage where we really rely on you now, not just for these formal projects, but just as trusted advisors.
Correct. Thank you. Rachelle, you have a point?
I just want to say you're always completely allowed to pay us more. We will take that, thank you.
Absolutely. Carl, how about you? So when you look at different organizations that do consulting or support work for your organization, how is it that you selected ESC over some of our competitors?
Yeah, I mean, price is obviously a key, but I think it's a lot more than that. I think that it's important to look at the services that ESC provides within the framework of the competing interests. So for example, we hired a woman to do our strategic plan, 3-4 years ago, not through ESC, because we felt that was the right fit. So I think really it's a question of understanding the fit and the dedication. So for with ESC, it's the fit includes a level of dedication and interest that comes from people who who are doing volunteer work and the commitment that they make to, to the project beyond getting a paycheck or, getting paid. So that says a lot. On the other hand, we've had pro bono work in the past, or cheaper work from, professionals, people who are giving back that, wasn't great. And so I think that it's important to, look at all those factors. Sometimes it's not the right fit, and it's about figuring out the group that you're going to work with, the team that you're going to work with.
What would you say, either of you, would be some of the most impactful things that ESC has helped you do?
We, when I came to respond now, I replaced a man who had been there for 33 years, and we had no kind of financial structure. Like, I was signing my own paycheck. It's just crazy. And there was no process and no structure, and so I think it was our second engagement. We brought on a gentleman, and he had a team, but eventually I think it was mainly just him. He's not with ESC anymore. He's moved, but he really helped to put this entire process in place for us, from top to bottom, and to help us understand, financial control and that I should not be opening the checks and depositing them and putting them into the system. So again, here I am, a young, MSW, given the reins of a business, and learning on the fly. And he was, that engagement and putting those financial structures into place, I think really helped us take that important step that we needed to take in order to grow the agency that we've been doing over the past 5 years.
Okay, thanks. Kenneth, how about you?
So I think some of the specific projects we've worked on, we've had kind of fundraising engagements, strategic planning, succession planning. It seems like all of those projects were very successful. We were very satisfied with the outcomes of all of those. So I think we've seen some really good growth in our organization. The results that we're starting to see on our programs as well are really being successful. They're what we wanted to see, and I think you definitely are part of that. I think it's gone from just the specific activities, the engagements. We've seen nice results, but because it's one of these ongoing relationships, it really seems like you're a key part of what we're actually accomplishing on our mission as well. And I think that hopefully comes back to your side as well, that you're bought in not just for these kind of specific engagements, but more what our mission is. And where we're seeing results and success in that area, you're definitely a part of that as well. I think one of the interesting things that we've seen over time is that inside your organization, you probably have a really good understanding of our organization now. And not just kind of, the key challenges in a specific area, but across the whole organization. And I think we started to see more where you're able to come to us and identify, you're going to see a challenge in this area in the future. You maybe have an opportunity in the future that maybe we haven't seen internally, because you have this kind of good breadth of understanding of our organization that you've built up. And so that's becoming kind of a key area of value to us now as well. Yeah.
Terrific. Thank you. So I'm gonna shift gears over to Mr. Brandt here next to me. So, Jim, we've got a number of newer consultants here for our meeting today. So I just wanted to give them some advice on what they can do to make their experience at ESC more impactful and fulfilling.
First thing I would suggest, have patience. We haven't had as many assignments as we need to fully engage everyone, so have patience. 2, don't take on an assignment that you can't handle, but you can learn a lot from the other consultants on the project and from the engagement manager. So consider the options when you're being asked. As an EM, I try to staff my team with people who have knowledge of the client or from the field the client is in, or with people who have knowledge of the kind of assignment we are being asked to tackle. I'll always try to have a new consultant on team, particularly if I have mentored that individual, or one who is skilled in something that is especially helpful to the engagement. a recent engagement, we needed a sales and marketing person. And I didn't have any knowledge of this individual at all, but he came with good credentials, and he was a newbie, and we put him on, and he was just terrific in helping that client with their sales and marketing problems. And fourth, when you're first assigned to a team, research that client as quickly as you can. There's so much material on the internet that you can pull up on an organization, and just don't take a look at the first slide that you can find. Dig into it. Down drop as far as you can go. Look at who's on the board. Look where they come from. So you can do a lot of research as soon as you are assigned to it before you even meet. And be as helpful to the executive, to the engagement manager as you can be. And when you're assigned a specific assignment, do it and get it done expeditiously.
Thanks. So how about all the projects you've worked on, Jim? Anyone that stands out to you as one of the most impactful?
Well, some of you may have heard this from an earlier meeting. This was the project from hell. We were assigned this engagement, and it was going to be a strategic plan. And we put together a team, we did our work, and we had to come to the executive director, who was really the president and founder, who had been 40 years in this position. And he and the board chair, we put together, the two of us. I had asked, I got to say it this way, when I was assigned to this job, it's an African-American organization, and I needed an African-American to work with me. And he's back there, his name is Mike Snipes. And when we got to the job of telling the board chair and the president that the president had to leave, that's a tough job, because you're speaking truth to power. And Mike said to me, it'll be easier for a black man to tell a black man this information than for a white man to tell him. I said, be my guest. Now, I had known the individual on a more social basis, but he had founded the organization, and he had to go, and Mike did the job of telling him. There were just the four people, the two of them and the two of us in that meeting. And after that meeting, it went okay. Now, he didn't fly off the handle at us, but we then produced the diagnostic report for them. We conducted the retreat. Our team led the various action plan production. And we gave it to them. We didn't hear a thing from them for 3.5 years. We couldn't get any. All we knew is that they had a new executive director, and that was all. 3.5 years later, they came back to ESC for another strategic plan. They had accomplished probably 2/3 to 3/4 of the material on those original action plans. They had done a heck of a job. When we first were assigned to them, they had been losing money for several years. The amount that they were losing was basically what this man was taking as salary, as benefits, as a car, and as a retirement plan. From the time he was replaced until they called us back, they were in the black all that time. So Mike and I went down and we did another strategic plan for them. It was a very satisfying thing to get called back after we thought we'd been basically, drummed out of the Corps. But it was the toughest assignment that I had ever had, the first one, because he had loaded that organization with a lot of people that weren't doing any work, and they were drawing salaries, and so when this new ED came in, she cleaned house. She did a real job, so.
Thank you, Jim. So I'm gonna turn to Rachelle for a second. And I'm gonna ask you, you've had to drive a lot of change here. You've been here about 2.5 years now, since March 2016. What has impressed you most about this organization as you've had to manage through all those changes?
Oh, sure. But before I answer that question, I just wanted to say about the project that Jim and Mike did. Obviously, the results of their work were incredible and integral into the turnaround of that organization. That organization served a community that, if that organization went away, those social services would not have been available in that community. So it was a critically important service to that community that they helped sustain and is operating successfully now. And that is the value of what we do, and I just wanted to reiterate that. So what has impressed me most? What has impressed me most has been the skills and experience of our consultants, the willingness of the board of directors and the life directors to embrace and help facilitate significant change and continuous growth. And our members staying with us through all of the evolutions of the organization and staying involved and helping us expand and do more and serve new clients and new places.
Thanks. I'm going to switch gears, go over to Tom for a second. So Tom, since you're our most recent board chair, I wanted to ask you, what do you see as the most critical issues for ESC to be successful as we go into our 5th decade of service?
And first of all, congratulations to all of us on our 40th anniversary. That's quite an accomplishment. The YWCMA of 140, who knows? But at least we're entering our 5th decade. But as we enter year 41, by far, I think our most critical issue is going to be generating revenue. Rachelle mentioned a little bit about some of the changes since her tenure began. And over the last several years, a lot of our focus has been on adjusting our cost structure and strengthening our balance sheet. And we've accomplished a lot in that area. But what that does is it takes a little bit away from external focus and shifts it more toward internal focus. Now, one of the benefits of that is that we do have greater financial stability right now, and I think is what we heard from some of our fabulous speakers today. It's just how important that financial flexibility is, because once you have that, you can start thinking about reinvesting back in the business once you have a little bit of surplus, if you have that. And for those of you who were here, I guess 6 months ago, for our March meeting, I mentioned at that point that we were doing some preliminary budget work, some preliminary projections for 2019. And it looked like we might break even in our financials, revenue equal to expense, maybe a little bit profit, but it was still a little bit early in the game. Well, now it's November. It'll be only November 1st, but still November, and we're still projecting that. So I think that's a very positive. And if in fact we're successful in doing that and breaking even for 2019, it'll be the first time in years that we'll have that accomplishment, which again will add to our financial flexibility. But back to the critical area of revenue generation. It's going to be important to drive it on all cylinders. I mean, if you take a look at our revenue, it's not that complicated. It's our consulting fee, it's our annual appeal. If we have an event like celebration of service, we have that, and then we have our grants and foundations. So it's not a whole lot of complication in our top line, but we need to press in all those areas to generate the kind of revenue that we can. And I think today's agenda was so appropriate because what we need to do too, in my opinion, is continue to stay in touch with what the customer needs are. You know, like we're hearing here, like we heard this morning. We need to stay on top of the evolving environment that we operate in the not-for-profit. I was blown away by this morning's panel. I hope you all were too. I thought it was fantastic with some of their insights. You know, I really do think that we have a good story to tell. I mean, we've been around for 40 years and we can't rest on our laurels. But we have a darn good story to tell, and we have even better people to back it up with.
Okay, thanks. Questions from the audience? Yeah, Corey.
Question for Kenneth and Carl. Given the changing landscape we hear about in the nonprofit space, what advice would you give ESC as we improve our outreach and try to help more nonprofits?
I know from our perspective as being a small agency, the services that are available are really key for us to be able to take advantage of, of that consultant work, of that strategic planning assistance or executive coaching or financial coaching. And I can't begin to speak on what ESC's marketing strategy is. I know I get emails and those are helpful, but I think if it's not a niche, it should be those smaller nonprofits that otherwise could not afford to get this kind of assistance. I think it means a lot. It's a big impact for them.
One area I've been wondering about is, can you use us to help you back more? So the current clients that you have, how can we actually now give back to you as well? We're all non-profits. So, the revenue part, maybe, but more, can we help you get other clients? Can you use us more for recommendations and referrals?
Yes.
And I think we'd love to do it. I think it becomes a chore when it's other consulting groups, but again, the value that you've given to us, I think ask us to do that more, and not just in writing, take our time as well. I think we'd love to come in and partner with you, go into new clients, tell the story of what you've done for us, and help back in that way.
Yes.
Thank you.
Like that. Thank you. Oh, John.
That should be very helpful.
Yes.
One of the points that the YWCA person presented was the challenge of disruptive technology that's occurring throughout for-profit, non-profit, and what effect it has had on them. And I'm just curious if any of you have any thoughts of how we, who many of us have been in the ESC through the changes in technology, how can we keep up to speed with the needs of our clients who are going at such a rapid pace of changing their models and their ways of doing business? How can we stay current?
Well, one thing is the younger people that are here today who have joined ESC, they bring talent and skills and information that you and I didn't have, John, when we were in business.
Okay, yeah.
My question is more forward-looking. We have, Rachelle, I think 15 to 20 different practices, correct?
If you mean services, yes. If
Yeah,
you
when
mean
I look
practice
at our-
groups, I would say no.
When I say practices, strategic planning, et cetera, et cetera. My question is the following. Do we have the right practice portfolio? And are there some practices that we need to be developing as others become stale?
Sure, yeah, so we had a committee of some board members, life directors, and engagement managers look at that. And we also did some surveying of clients and potential clients. The services that we offer are appropriate and needed, but there are a couple of areas where we need to recruit more consultants, and we're actively engaged in doing that through our professional networks, through social media, through work with the faculty teams. And so we can have a conversation offline of this and about those areas, and I'll give you some backdoor information about where we are in those processes, because there may be people that you all know that might be helpful in beefing those up. But generally speaking, we get our best consultants from our best consultants. So if you know a professional who has some time to give, please recommend them. Jane does a great job organizing the interviews and screening applications, and Irv and Tim and Joan and everyone has really put a great training together. So bring us whoever you got.
Okay, I think we've got time for maybe 2 more questions.
Tim,
Sorry.
Talking about kind of the separate practices, not so much the specific ones, but I think what's interesting to us is we've worked with different groups within your organization. How are you crossing over between those different departments, the different practices? How are you making sure that knowledge in one area, an idea from one area, comes across to somewhere new and then comes to us? There's an interesting comment Bill just made about not being too pushy, proactive with an idea for something in the future. I think we want to see that. I think it'd be interesting for us to kind of hear from you when we've worked with you in all the different departments that you have, you coming to us in a more proactive way about what you're seeing for the future for us. Not waiting so much for us to engage back with you when we have an issue or a problem, but I think you've got so much knowledge across your practices, you could come to us much more proactively.
To that end, and John, to your question, and Don, your question. For a long time, I've said in many meetings, we don't eat our own cooking. We are chock full of giving advice to others, but I think it's incumbent upon the organization to look inside and find the answers to those questions.
So this is just a follow-up to what John said about trying to stay current with technologies and help our clients stay current and stay with this. Have we ever considered partnering with people younger than us that are current with this stuff, like business schools, Loyola, people that would like to work with maybe more seasoned people and learn from us as we learn from them? Is there any opportunities there that we've taken a look at?
Yeah, so we not only have we thought of that, we've been doing that. So we currently have 3 engagements right now where members of the team are working professionals, where we had some skills that supported the project, but we also needed to bring skills in to be able to fulfill the needs of the client, and that's what we did. We've also done a completely different model where we've partnered with corporations, and we've gone in and worked with their professionals and a nonprofit client and used our consultants to support their knowledge of how nonprofits work. And then they've worked on specific tasks in the wheelhouse of their professional skills. So for example, one of the clients who lets us mention them, Chicago Hopes for Kids, they needed some HR stuff done. Some HR professionals from that corporation, alongside one of ESC's very seasoned and skilled consultants, met with them. We facilitated that meeting after some training. They worked on those projects, they presented the results, and the corporate partner paid us for the facilitation, the training, the partnership, and gave a grant to the organization as well. So those things are happening. It's a little bit tricky because this corporate client, one of the things they feel they're paying ESC for is to not be bothered by nonprofits. So we can't say that they gave us money. We can't say that they partnered with us. We just have to keep going. This corporation, which is kind of weirdly creepy. So that's probably why you haven't heard about it. But it is happening. And if you know professionals who have skills that you think might be especially helpful to our nonprofit clients, let Teresa and I know, because we're very open-minded, and our consulting teams are really happy to work with people who are ready to roll up their sleeves and join them.
Okay. I'm sorry we can't take any more questions because we haven't gotten to the fun part. I know Rachelle put a lot of time and energy into the fun part, so let's take a minute and thank all of our panel members for joining us.